We'll start with Jessica Camerato, MLB.com.
Hey, Paul, welcome to your busy off season.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, Jess.
Hi. What can you tell us about this hire and why this was the right match for you?
Yeah, I think it just starts with the person that Blake is. I think he just very much aligns with the values that we hold sacred as an organization. And then, I think um, Blake's leadership skills like really jumped out to us from the get-go, right? And so I think those two things in conjunction with each other were two of the main driving factors. And then also like he's got a pretty unique set of experiences that um, didn't necessarily lead us to making the decision in isolation, but I think were very beneficial as we considered Blake's candidacy relative to the other candidates.
Can you expand on when you said unique experiences? What makes him unique to you?
Yeah, well, I think maybe the most obvious things, especially from the outside, right, would be the fact that he's coming from the front office, overseeing player development. That hasn't happened very frequently, I think, throughout baseball, right? But then also, like, he doesn't have experience as a major league manager, let alone a major league staff member, right? So, having said that, like, he's been a minor league manager, and he had a lot of success as a minor league manager, and I think in that job, like you are exposed to a good amount of things where there is overlap with the major league managerial position, and so just the more we thought about it, the more we figured it was a great fit.
Mark Zuckerman, MassonSports.com.
Follow up on that point there. When you do have somebody who hasn't played or coached in the big leagues, what kind of challenge do you view that as of him kind of getting to know and getting the respect of a major league clubhouse of players, who may look at a guy and say he's never been at this level before, or even close to this level before. How big a challenge do you think that is?
Yeah, so I think like first and foremost, right? Like with every new manager, like you just don't know until they're given the opportunity how they're going to respond to the challenge, right? Um, Having said that, like I feel actually very good about betting on Blake in this position, and I think it's so much of it just circles back to the person he is and the leader that he is, right? Um, Having said that, like every manager has an adjustment period that they go through. I should say every first year manager, but even like the guys the second time around, the third time around. So, but Blake is really smart and like I said, a great leader, and I'm just confident that like he's going to be able to adjust seamlessly and then also grow over time. He's just he's a very thoughtful, um, motivated individual that I think will just continue to get better as time goes on.
Did you know him or know of him prior to this process? And if not, how did he come onto your radar?
Yeah, we didn't know each other personally. I'd heard a lot about him. I actually, even though I'm not much older than him, I scouted him when he was at Boston College, and I we just have a lot of mutual connections. Where I'm actually surprised that I had never met him prior to this process kicking off. But yeah, so many mutual connections. I think I can't remember exactly the first time I really heard about him, but. There had been a number of people over the years that had told me about Blake, and I really went into this process having an understanding of what I thought it was going to be like, but didn't honestly know until I really hopped into it. And I'm really fortunate that we did reach out to interview him because he blew me away throughout the process.
Spencer Nussbaum, Washington Post.
Hey, Paul. You mentioned his kind of unique resume. Has your perspective on what it takes to be a big league manager and a successful big league manager changed since when you first got into the industry? And how does Blake maybe embody what you believe it takes to be a successful big league manager?
Great question. I think like the major things have stayed pretty consistent, which is like regardless of like, hey, whether it's 2015 when I entered into professional baseball or 2025, like, I think what you're looking for, at least what I would be looking for, is someone that can do a really good job creating a winning culture in the clubhouse, right? And to me, like the manager sets the tone of accountability with staff members and players, and I think that was true 10 years ago, just as it is today, right? But then also like they're really responsible for getting the most out of the player group, right? And we want someone to lead players and staff effectively, and just like it was true in 2015, like it's true today. And I think Blake that'll be a huge strength of Blake's as time goes on.
Got you. And who is going to be in charge of building the rest of the big league staff? And when do you want those decisions to have materialized by?
Yeah, that'll be Blake and I primarily tackling it together. And the one thing I'll say about Blake and I's relationship, in a short period of time, we're incredibly aligned about how we think through this. And so this was obviously the first domino that had to fall in terms of getting the manager in place. And then from there, we're already on it, and we're trying to move as quickly as possible to round out the staff.
Andrew Golden, Washington Post.
Hey, Paul. And I know you mentioned earlier in the month that you have an extensive search for the manager. Did you have a sense heading in of how you maybe thought that process would go? How did it look the same or different from what you expected? And I guess what qualities were you looking for in a manager, and how did that kind of help you narrow down what you were looking for in what you ultimately decided?
Yeah, I think going into it, knew we would cast a wide net. I probably was a touch naive in just how time consuming it would be. It takes up the majority of your day for about whatever it was, 3 or 4 weeks straight. Because it's not just the one-on-one time, obviously, with the candidates, but we obviously wanted to have a really robust process as it comes to reference checks and that sort of thing. And so very time intensive, but obviously very much worth it. And then to the second part of your question, yeah, like kind of like I just mentioned, like I just, we want someone that is going to do a really good job creating a winning culture in the clubhouse, right? And is able to hold players and staff accountable. And then, from there, I just think we want someone that, as I mentioned, like is aligned with our values and has those great leadership traits that I think can really push that group forward.
For sure. And I know he came from a well-regarded organization in Tampa. I guess what's your sense of how integral he was to the foundation there? And then also you talked about like him wanting to have a leader in the clubhouse and that sort of thing. Like how do you kind of gauge that from an interview? And I guess how do you kind of balance that? I'm sure everybody who applies for the job is probably having people say the same thing.
Yeah, it's challenging. Like to answer the second question first, like it's challenging, right? Like, and there's no real like practical way of vetting it out, right? We can't just throw him in a dugout in the off season and see how he responds, right? So, I think so much of it is just understanding how he thinks about leadership, the feeling that you have when he's making his pitch of like how what his vision is for the major league group and how he thinks he can lead it. It's like any other position, really just like uh, gaining a good understanding of the leadership traits of the person, right? So, how good are they? In my mind, how I think about it is like shaping and reinforcing the culture that we want, and then creating the structure that's necessary to perform. And just the more conversations we had with them, came to really just believe that this was a huge strength of Blake's. Sorry,
Bobby,
you had a first question there too.
oh, sorry.
I probably whiffed on Andrew.
Oh yeah, just like just coming from the Tampa Bay Rays, I guess like how what sense do you get about how integral he was to that? I even forgot it myself.
Yeah, no, it's all good. I think obviously I didn't work within their walls, but my sense is that this was a huge loss for the Rays. It's probably a good opportunity to thank Eric and the rest of the group too for allowing us permission to talk to Blake. And the unique thing, as I'm sure you all know, is he was able to impact the organization in a number of different ways, right? Obviously, as a player, as a coach, as a manager, as a field coordinator, and then in the front office. So, yeah, huge impact on their organization. And once again, I'm grateful for the Rays to having allowed us to talk with Blake.
Bobby Blanco, mastersports.com.
Hey, Paul, thanks for doing this. You just mentioned all of his background with the Rays, and earlier you mentioned his specific background into player development. Was having someone with player development skills part of your search and someone you were looking for, or that just so happened that Blake had those when he interviewed?
No, it certainly wasn't a prerequisite, like we didn't want to pigeonhole ourselves into looking at one specific type of person or one, specific type of experience or experiences, right? Like what we wanted to make sure was uh, to make sure we brought someone in that fit our values, right, and had great leadership traits. And then I think experience can take shape in a number of different ways, right? So Blake has great perspective in what he's done in player development. I think he'll help drive a lot of that at the major league level. That said, we're very open-minded throughout this process.
And you also talked about wanting someone who could hold the team and the coaching staff accountable and having leadership qualities. Do you think I was talking about how he's younger than you. Do you feel like his youth will allow him to relate to your young roster more so than perhaps an older veteran manager might have?
Yeah, I can't speak to like the older veteran manager, and I think it's so much of it just comes down to the individual themselves, right? What I'll say about Blake is that one thing I learned through just talking to so many people, either within the Rays organization or outside, is he's got a uncanny ability to gain the respect and trust of like the grizzled veteran baseball coach that maybe has been in the league for 50 plus years, but then also the first year analyst that is new to the game, right? That like is probably trying to figure out like what his or her path is. Like Blake also has an uncanny ability to relate with that person, right? So to me, it's one of Blake's greatest strengths. He's just able to really connect with people. And circling back to your question, like I think the player group, especially like younger players, will find him extremely easy to connect with. But then also, like what you said at the start is true too. Like he's not afraid to hold folks accountable, which I think is a huge part of the job as well.
Thanks.
Grant Paulson, 1067.
Hey, Paul. Yeah, I'm wondering if the hire was, the consideration of the team that you're trying to build or how quickly you'll compete, whether you're rebuilding and young or whether you're going to be, veteran and compete a little more. Like, how much of your process was based on what you're going to become?
No, we just, how I approached it is like, no matter like where we are in terms of like the state of our organization, like we wanted someone that can do as good a job as possible in year one, but then also like when we get 4, 5, 6, 7 years down the line, we also look at this person like they're leading us the way that this organization needs to be led as it relates to the major league group, right? So um, to us, like it fit both kind of desires, right? Like being competitive in the near term, but then also maximizing our potential in the long term.
And then I think I asked you something along these lines before, kind of brushed that, but now that you have the hire, in terms of like helping from the front office, whether it's you or other people, a manager manage, which a lot of data and model organizations do more of before the game. With him not managing before, could that be more a thing that you guys have to do, or how do you view that in terms of your involvement, the front office's involvement, and kind of pre-managing games?
Yeah. So, I think more than anything, like, and I think you hit on it, like so much of this work is done before the game starts, right? And I think our job as the front office is to provide Blake with all the information he needs to be successful, right? And then if we do a really good job, building this relationship that hopefully is built on a foundation of trust, right? It's like when the game starts, it's like Blake, you go get him, right? And we fully entrust you and empower him to make the decisions that he needs to make to be a really really good in-game decision maker. So and Blake also has unique perspective in that respect too, right? Coming from a front office. So I think he's pretty well equipped to be a really good in-game strategist right from the get-go.
Thanks, Paul. Congrats on the hire.
Yeah, thank you.
Jessica?
You had mentioned during the interview process, Blake also gave a pitch as well. So what stood out to you about his pitch to you?
Yeah, well, I think more than anything, like we were just aligned in like what we saw as the job of the manager, right? And like how so much of it was had to do with, like I said, shaping and reinforcing the culture in the clubhouse and across the staff, right? Um, so, uh, it was really just that alignment, I think, that allowed us to really connect from the get-go. And nothing crazy fancy, but I think just like the passion and the authenticity to which he talked about it, we really gravitated towards.
And how would you describe Blake's demeanor? Because we haven't met him yet. So is he like a manager who's going to be like rah rah, or is he kind of like a quiet lead by example guy?
Um, I would describe him as incredibly humble, incredibly open-minded, really even-keeled. But then also like he just has a very natural way of connecting with folks of all different backgrounds, right? So I know I mentioned it in my earlier example, but um, he's just really easy to talk to, and someone that I see myself not just like growing really close to as like a professional relationship, but I envision him becoming one of my really close friends just because he's so easy to talk to. He's such a great person. I don't want to kind of just keep going back to this, but like the values that he has and believes in, we're very much aligned on too.
Mark Zuckerman.
When it comes to the coaching staff, what are the qualities or the things you're prioritizing as you search for that? And given his lack of experience, does experience on a coaching staff mean more or matter more in that case?
Yeah, it's a great question. Like I think really any good leader has a good understanding of kind of what their circle of competence is, where their strengths lie, right? And then I think this is like where Blake's humility will shine, right? It's like it's about filling the voids that maybe Blake has. And so I think once again, first and foremost, like we want folks with character that are aligned with like how we want to build this out, right? But then two, like we want a level of expertise that can take shape in a number of different ways, right? Whether that's like, hey, experience in the major leagues and an understanding of how to navigate in-game decision making and experience doing so, right? Or just like, hey, um, you know, uh, competence or expertise in the pitching or the hitting or in the defensive spaces, right? Like we want to create a really well informed staff that also does a great job connecting with players and staff members. And I think what hopefully will shine through is the diversity of experiences and backgrounds will really play a big role as well.
And can you say if anyone from this year's staff is under consideration to return?
I'm not going to go there quite yet, just because we aren't ready to chat about it yet. But I think in time we will.
Spencer Nussbaum, Washington Post.
Yeah, expanding here a little bit. You had said during your initial presser that you weren't sure if you were going to hire a GM underneath you. Have you made a choice on whether you'll do that and what goes into that decision?
Yeah, so for the time being, I'm not planning on hiring a GM, and I think you can assume that to be the case until I tell you all otherwise.
And you touched on this a little bit. When you think about the staff that you're surrounding him with, I know that when you were at the Red Sox and kind of building the player development side of things, you had sought out like college coaches and training facilities and things like that. How important are those past relationships, and what did that teach you about like your open-mindedness in terms of building a staff?
Uh, yeah, so I think we can come on to really good staff members in a number of different ways, right? Like, I talked about this, I think, in the press conference. Like, former experience at the major league level is like, a feather in your cap, but it also doesn't mean everything, right? So, um, we'll be like casting a really wide net, right? And searching for highly impactful staff members, like no matter where they come from.
And Andrew Golden.
Well, I know there were some reports that you were planning to bring in two assistant GMs, Devin Pearson and Justin Horowitz. I don't know if you could speak to those, but I guess like why did you think it was necessary to bring those guys in, and do you have a sense of how they'll kind of fit into the organization and what you're trying to do here?
Yeah, of course. I can shed some light on that. So we hired Devin Pearson as an assistant GM. Devin's going to oversee our development space. So I call him DP. DP comes from a background in acquisitions. He was a scouting director. We worked together for a long period of time in Boston. And I think why that's important is one, like just the person, the leader is top notch in my opinion, but then also like the experience in working in acquisitions, right? Like now he's shifting over to development. I think in my mind, the best organizations in baseball do a really, really good job integrating the two. And they kind of take their learnings on the development side and have them well integrated into the acquisition side, right? Um, and then just to pivot to Justin Horowitz really quickly, who's also hopping on as an AGM overseeing acquisitions. He comes from the Pirates, but we work together in Boston. And I think there's just a mutual understanding and alignment on how we think it should look. And they're both just unbelievable leaders and teammates that I think will seamlessly transition into this organization and create really great relationships in short order.
And when you say oversee acquisitions, like what exactly does that mean and what does that look like?
Yeah, so like the amateur acquisition, so the draft, right? Pro acquisitions, trades, free agency, all that, and then the international front too. So international scouting and yeah, all of our acquisitions that happen on the international front.
And Bobby Blanco.
Just curious because we saw them during your press conference. How involved was ownership in this decision, or did they kind of give you free reign to go and go through this process by yourself?
Extremely supportive. They've been great to work for in this first month. But they also made it very clear, like this was my decision, and so this was the decision that we made as a group, front office and myself and ownership was, like I said, extremely supportive every step of the way.
And I'm kind of surprised no one's asked yet, but we know that Blake had a baby the day that the hiring was kind of becoming official. Just from your side, what was that like? Kind of trying to finalize the deal, but then him having this life-changing moment.
Yeah, we knew for a period of time that the baby was going to be coming at some point. Didn't obviously know exactly when, but uh, I don't want to speak for Blake on this, but I think it was a pretty hectic few hours for him where he and his wife Caroline went to the hospital. I think Jeff Passan broke the news probably like an hour later, and then an hour after that, or whatever it was, they welcomed a baby into the world. So, awesome day for the Butera family. I'm sure it's a day that will go down in history for their fan.
Thanks.
We'll go two more. We'll go to Mark.
Just real quick, you're talking about the AGMs. Can you say what Mike DeBartolo's title or role is? Is it comparable to what he did under Mike Rizzo, or is it something different?
Yeah, so Mike is going to be taking a role as an SVP and AGM overseeing the operations side. So um, like honestly, since the press conference, Mike and I have grown even tighter. He's exceptionally talented at what he does, and he's going to have a huge impact on this organization going forward.
Thanks.
And we'll finish up with Jess.
Do you still have your scouting report on Blake from Boston College?
I don't know if I do. I don't have access to the Red Sox system, and I'm not entirely sure I wrote a scouting report, to be honest. So, um, but it's funny. I remember watching him in the Cape too. I think he played for Chatham, and I remember he had a really good playoff one year. Maybe it was 2014. I think he hit like 400 in the playoffs, but I would have to check that. I might be wrong about it, but yeah, I remember watching him as a player. They had some good teams at Boston College with I don't know if you remember Chris Shaw and Justin Dunn, Michael King, and some others. So good teams, and I'm friends with the ex-college coach there. His name's Mike Gambino, is now at Penn State, and he obviously had wonderful things to say about Blake. So.